You clicked because you've seen it too. That Japanese car with 300,000 miles on it, still running like new. And you were told the answer is simple. Better engineering. That's a lie. Or at least, it's not the whole truth. Here's what shouldn't be possible. Japan has the strictest, most expensive car inspection on Earth. Streets barely wider than a hallway, and winters that eat metal alive. By every Western rule, driving there should be a money pit. Yet the average Japanese driver spends less on repairs, crashes far less often, and keeps a car running longer than you or I ever will. That's the paradox I couldn't let go of. It started for me on a rainy morning in Osaka, watching a taxi driver in white gloves walk a slow circle around his cab before he ever touched the door. I thought he was strange. I was wrong. I'm going to hand you the whole case file, one clue at a time, and the last piece I found goes back to a nearly blind train worker in 1913. You can use every bit of it in the driveway you already have, starting today. Let me start with the thing that made no sense to me at all. In every parking lot I visited in Japan, from a Tokyo department store to a tiny grocery in the countryside, nearly every single car was parked the same way. Backed in, nose out. Not one or two of them. Almost all of them. In America, we nose in. We pull straight into the spot, easy, and we back out later. In Japan, they do the harder thing first, every single time, and I wanted to know why a whole nation would choose the more difficult move a dozen times a day. My first guess was that it was just a custom, a habit, something they picked up and never questioned. That guess was lazy, and it was wrong, because when I looked into the accident data, the reason snapped into focus. The dangerous moment in any parking lot is not when you arrive, it's when you leave. When you back out blind into a lane where children walk, where other cars roll through, where you cannot see what's coming until half your car is already in the danger zone. The Japanese figured out something the rest of us ignore. You back in when you arrive, because you have a clear view of the empty space and all the time in the world. Then when you leave, you pull straight out, forward, with your eyes on everything ahead of you. You move the hard, blind maneuver to the safe moment, and you keep the easy, clear maneuver for the dangerous one. Fleet studies on this are brutal in their clarity. Companies that force their drivers to back into spaces see reversing accidents drop by huge margins because the vast majority of low-speed parking lot collisions happen when a car is backing out into traffic it cannot see. The Japanese don't think of this as a hack. They think of it as basic sense, drilled in from the first driving lesson. I timed it myself in a lot outside Kyoto. Backing in cost the driver maybe 8 extra seconds on arrival. Pulling straight out saved him a blind, twisting, neck-craning reverse into a busy lane on the way home. 8 seconds of care to remove the single most dangerous moment of the whole trip. And here's the part that stung. Nobody sold them this. There's no product, no gadget, no subscription. It costs nothing but a change in the order you do 2 things you already do. That was the first crack in the easy answer I'd been handed, that Japanese cars just last because they're built better. Cars don't back themselves into parking spots. People do. This wasn't about the machine at all. It was about the human being behind the wheel. But that only deepened the mystery. Because if the secret was in the habits and not the metal, then why did every guide, every article, every expert I'd ever read point me straight back to the engineering? Someone somewhere wanted my eyes on the machine and not on the method. I didn't know who yet. But I'd found the first thread and I pulled it, which led me straight to the second exhibit, and this one has a date on it. 1951. That's the year Japan passed the Road Transport Vehicle Act, the law that created the system they call Shaken. If you own a car in Japan, once it's 3 years old, and every 2 years after that, you are required by law to submit it for one of the most thorough vehicle inspections in the world. They check the brakes, the alignment, the exhaust, the undercarriage, the lights, the emissions, the play in the steering, things most Western drivers never think about until something fails on the highway, and it is not cheap. Depending on the car, a single Shaken can cost the equivalent of $1,000, $1,500, sometimes $2,000 when you add the mandatory work, the taxes, and the insurance bundled into it. Now stop and think about that with Western logic, the way I did. That sounds insane. That sounds like a punishment for owning a car. My first reaction was pure outrage on their behalf. How do these people spend less on their vehicles when the government forces a $2,000 bill on them every couple of years? It made no sense. The math seemed backwards. And then I understood. And it changed how I look at my own truck to this day. The Shaken system does something we in the West refuse to do. It forces preventive maintenance. It catches the worn brake pad before it becomes a snapped rotor. It catches the cracked boot before it becomes a destroyed axle. It catches the slow leak, the soft bushing, the tired belt, while they are still $40 problems instead of $4,000 catastrophes. In America, we drive until something breaks, and then we pay a fortune to fix the brake and everything the brake destroyed on its way out. The Japanese are forced to catch the small thing first. And catching the small thing first is the single cheapest way to own a car that exists. Here's the number that stopped me cold. A worn part caught early might cost you $30 or $40. That same part, left to fail on the road, can take out 3 or 4 other components with it and turn into a repair bill in the thousands, plus a tow, plus the days without your car. The Japanese aren't spending more because of Shaken. They're spending less, because they never let the small thing grow into the big thing. The expensive inspection is actually the cheapest insurance policy in the automotive world, but you and I don't have Shaken. No law forces us to walk our car through a strict inspection every 2 years, so we skip it. We wait for the warning light, we wait for the noise, we wait for the smell, and by the time we notice, the cheap fix is long gone. That's when I started to see the shape of who profited from my ignorance. Because there is an entire industry built on you waiting until it breaks. The repair shop makes more on the catastrophe than on the checkup. The dealer makes more on the driver who trades in a neglected car for a new one every few years than on the one who keeps a car running for 20. Nobody in that chain has any reason to teach you the quiet Japanese discipline of catching the small thing first. It's not that they lie to you, it's that they simply never mention it, and their silence has a price tag, and you've been paying it for years. So I ask myself the obvious question. If the whole Shaken system is really just forced preventive maintenance, could I recreate it in my own driveway, for free, without any law forcing me to? This all sounds fine for people living in Japan with their inspection stations and their tiny, careful cities, but you're sitting in an ordinary house in Ohio or Yorkshire or Alberta, and you can't fly to Tokyo to learn how to keep a car alive. I hear you. So this next part is built for you and nobody else, and it needs nothing but you, your car, and about 10 minutes on a Saturday. Here is the Japanese walk-around, rebuilt for a Western driveway. Remember that taxi driver in the white gloves circling his cab in the rain? I finally learned what he was doing, and it's something you can copy exactly. Once a week, before you drive anywhere, you walk one slow, deliberate circle around your car. That's it. But you do it the Japanese way, which means you don't just glance. You look with intent, and you look at specific things in a specific order, so your eyes never skip the thing that matters. Start at the front. Look at both headlights. Are they both clear? Both intact? Look down at the tires on that end. Not just whether they have air, but whether one looks lower than the others. Whether the tread looks even or worn on one side. A tire wearing on one edge is telling you your alignment is off, and alignment off is quietly eating your tires and your fuel every single mile. Move down the side, look under the car. You're looking for one thing above all others. A spot, a drip, a stain on the ground under where the engine and transmission sit. A fresh puddle of anything is your car whispering to you before it screams. Green means coolant. Red or brown means transmission or oil. Clear could be nothing, could be air conditioning, could be brake fluid, and brake fluid is the one you never ignore. Come around the back. Both brake lights, both turn signals. Get someone to stand behind while you press the pedal, or back up near a wall at night and watch the red glow. A dead brake light is the difference between the driver behind you slowing down and the driver behind you plowing into you. Then the tires on that end, same as the front. 1 full circle, 2 minutes, maybe 3. Now open the hood, because this is where the real Japanese discipline lives, and it's simpler than any dealer wants you to believe. You are checking 3 fluids by sight. The engine oil, pulled out on the dipstick, wiped, dipped again, read against the marks, and looked at for color. Fresh oil is amber and clear. Oil, like coffee, thick and black and gritty, is oil that has stopped protecting your engine. The coolant, checked at the reservoir between the low and full lines, and never ever opened when the engine is hot. And the brake fluid, in its little reservoir, sitting between its marks. 3 fluids, 30 seconds each. That's the entire secret behind cars that run 300,000 miles. Not magic metal. A human being who looks. That question is exactly where this case turns from something happening over there to something you can do this weekend. If you want to go deeper into the full system behind all of this, the habits, the history, and the exact methods behind why Japanese drivers consistently outperform the rest of the world, I put everything I found into a book called Japanese Roots, and there's a complete expanded version called The Full System for those who want every layer. I've also written Deep Japanese for readers who want to understand not just the what, but the why behind each practice. You'll find the details in the description below. Everything in those pages is practical, unglamorous, and built for the driveway you already have. I know what some of you are thinking right now, and once a month, you check your tire pressure with a gauge that costs about $10. This one is not optional, and it's the most ignored thing in the Western driving world. Underinflated tires burn more fuel, wear out faster, and are far more likely to blow out on a hot highway. The Japanese check religiously. Studies on fuel economy show that properly inflated tires can save you a real, measurable slice of your gas bill over a year, and they can add thousands of miles to the life of a set of tires that costs hundreds of dollars to replace. $10 gauge, 5 minutes a month, that's the whole trade. Do just this, the weekly circle and the monthly pressure check, and you have built your own private Shaken right there in your driveway, with no law and no fee. You will catch the $40 problem before it becomes the $4,000 one the same way they do. You've now got the discipline. But discipline is only half the case, because how you drive the car matters just as much as how you check it, and that's where I found the next clue. Because there's a myth I grew up with, and maybe you did too, that's been quietly costing drivers money for decades. The myth is this. On a cold morning, you start your car and let it sit and idle for 5, 10, even 15 minutes to warm it up before you drive. My father did it. His father did it. And in Japan, I noticed, they mostly don't. They start, they wait a very short moment, and they drive off gently. At first, I thought they were being reckless with their engines. I had it exactly backwards. Here's the truth that took me too long to learn. That long, idle habit made sense once, generations ago, on old engines with carburetors that genuinely needed to warm before they'd run right. But every modern car built in the last 30 years has fuel injection and a computer that manages the cold start for you. Sitting there idling does almost nothing to warm the engine efficiently, and it does nothing at all to warm the parts that actually need it. The transmission, the wheel bearings, the tires. Those only warm up when the wheels turn. So a long idle just burns fuel, going nowhere, while washing raw fuel past your cylinder walls and shortening the life of the very engine you think you're protecting. The Japanese approach, which matches what engineers now recommend everywhere, is beautiful in its simplicity. Start the car. Give it maybe 30 seconds, just long enough for the oil to reach the top of the engine. Then drive off, but drive gently for the first few minutes. Keep the revs low. No hard acceleration, no flooring it onto the freeway. Let the whole car, engine and transmission and tires together come up to temperature the way they're actually designed to, under a light, easy load. You warm the engine faster, you save the fuel you'd have burned sitting still, and you protect every moving part instead of just fooling yourself. This connects to a whole philosophy the Japanese drive by, one their national campaigns actually promote, called eco-driving. It's not complicated, it's smooth. You accelerate gently, you look far ahead, and you coast toward red lights, instead of racing up and slamming the brakes, which just throws away the fuel you spent to build that speed. You use engine braking down hills. You take unnecessary weight out of the trunk, because every extra pound of junk you haul around is fuel you're paying for. Japanese studies on these gentle techniques show fuel savings in the range of 10 to 20% for the average driver. And easier driving means brakes that last longer, tires that last longer, a transmission that lasts longer. Every part of the car ages slower when you drive it kindly. And I want you to feel the weight of that number for a second. 10 to 20% off your fuel bill every week for the rest of your driving life, for changing nothing but the smoothness of your right foot. That's a real amount of money staying in your pocket, and it's the exact opposite of what the industry around you wants. Because a driver who accelerates hard, brakes hard, and neglects the small things is a driver who burns more fuel, replaces more brakes, kills more tires, and trades the whole car in sooner. Every rough habit you have is a line item in somebody else's profit. That's not a conspiracy in a dark room. It's just that nobody ever had a reason to teach you the gentle way, because the gentle way makes them nothing. So I had it, or I thought I had it. Back in when you park. Walk the circle every week, check the fluids, check the pressure, warm the car by driving it, not by idling it. Drive smooth. Every one of those is real, every one saves money, every one I've tested myself. But there was still one piece missing, because all of these are things you do to the car or with the car. None of them explained the thing that first caught my eye, that slow, strange ritual the taxi driver performed before he ever turned the key. And when I finally tracked down what that ritual was and where it came from, the whole case snapped shut. It goes back to 1913 and to the Japanese railways. There was a system developed on the trains, a method for preventing the small human error that kills people. The story that survives is of a train worker with failing eyesight who, unable to trust his own eyes, began pointing at each signal and calling out loud what he saw, so a second worker could confirm it. What grew out of that is a practice the Japanese call shisakanko, which translates roughly as pointing and calling. And it became the single most powerful safety tool in Japanese transportation, used to this day by the drivers of the fastest, safest trains on the planet. Here's how it works, and here's why it's the finale of this entire investigation. Instead of just passively looking at something, you physically point your finger at it, and you say out loud what you see and what you're about to do. It sounds almost childish. It is anything but. When you point and speak, you force your brain to engage. You take a passive glance, the kind that slides right off a distracted mind, and you turn it into an active, conscious check that your body, your voice, and your eyes all confirm together. And the proof is not folklore. A study conducted by Japan's Railway Technical Research Institute put this to the test, and the result is the number I keep coming back to. Pointing and calling reduced human errors by roughly 85%. 85%. Not from new technology, not from a device, from a human being pointing a finger and saying a word out loud. That is one of the most powerful error reduction findings in the history of safety research, and almost nobody outside Japan has ever heard of it. Now bring it back to that taxi driver in the rain, and bring it back to you. He wasn't being strange. He was running shisakanko on his own car and his own body before he drove you anywhere. And you can do the exact same thing this weekend in the car you own right now for free. Before you pull out of a parking spot, you point. You point left and you say out loud, "Clear left." You point right and you say, "Clear right." Before you change lanes on the highway, you point to your mirror, you point to your blind spot, and you say it. Mirror clear. Blind spot clear. Before you back up, you turn, you point out the rear window, and you say it out loud. You will feel ridiculous the first time. I did. I sat in my own driveway feeling like a fool, pointing at my mirrors and talking to an empty car. And then, about a week in, I caught it. A cyclist coming up on my right that I would have swung into because my eyes had glanced right past him in that lazy, passive way we all look without seeing, but my finger and my voice caught what my glance had missed. That was the moment the whole case closed for me. The Japanese secret was never in the steel. It was in the ritual that keeps the human being awake at the wheel. This is the answer I chased all the way from a rainy street in Osaka. The reason their cars last, the reason they crash so much less, the reason they spend less, was never one magic thing. It was 100 small, deliberate, unglamorous human habits, kept alive in a country that never threw them away, while we in the West traded every one of them for convenience and a warning light on the dashboard. The answer existed the whole time. The modern world just buried it under gadgets and sales pitches, and a nation on the far side of the ocean quietly kept it. Now it's yours. Somewhere along the way, we were talked out of paying attention, and we were sold expensive fixes for problems that attention would have prevented for free. That's what this whole trail led back to. You are not the kind of person who accepts the easy answer, the just buy a better car answer, the wait until it breaks answer. You followed this all the way to the end, which means you're the kind of person who'd rather know than be sold to. So here's my question for you, and I want you to actually answer it. That habit of backing into the parking space, nose out, ready to leave safely. Is that something you already do, or is it something you're going to start this week? Tell me. Leave it in the comments right now, because I read them, and I want to know how many of you were already doing the Japanese thing without knowing it had a name. And if you're ready to keep recovering the things the convenience world quietly took from us, come with me. This isn't about one channel. It's about a growing group of people digging up the old, cheap, honest methods that actually work and putting them back to use. Because the next trail I'm following is even stranger. I found out why Japanese homes in the snow country stay warm all winter using almost no heating and one forgotten idea from the Edo period, and once you see how simple it is, you'll wonder how we ever forgot it. Follow along, and let's dig it up together. If you're still with me, you clearly love this stuff as much as I do. So here's where it goes next. Inside the Japanese ways circle, I pick up right where we just stopped. You can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers. And you won't be alone. Thousands of curious learners are already inside. Just point your phone at the code on screen. Cancel anytime with one click.